Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we re-exploring a pivotal moment in South Asian history, the Bangladesh Liberation War of 1971, a war that not only reshaped the map of the subcontinent but also marked the birth of a new nation, Bangladesh. The conflict between East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, and West Pakistan was fueled by political, ethnic, and cultural tensions that had been brewing for decades. In this video, we Lions take a deep dive into the causes, key events, and the legacy of the war, as well as the immense human cost that came with it. So, let's go back to 1971 and explore how Bangladesh fought for its independence from Pakistan. To understand the Bangladesh Liberation War, we need to look at the historical context of the creation of Pakistan in 1947. When British India gained independence, it was divided into two countries, India and Pakistan. Pakistan was created as a homeland for Muslims and was split into two geographically and culturally distinct parts: West Pakistan, modern-day Pakistan, and East Pakistan, modern-day Bangladesh. The two regions were separated by about 1,600 kilometers of Indian territory, which created inherent challenges in governance, communication, and unity. From the beginning, there were significant differences between East and West Pakistan. While West Pakistan, which included the capital city of Karachi and later Islamabad, dominated the political and military leadership, East Pakistan, with its capital in Dhaka, had a much larger population. This imbalance in power led to growing discontent in the East, where people felt politically marginalized and economically exploited. Over the years, East Pakistan's resources such as rice, jute, and manpower were heavily used to support the West, while the region itself remained underdeveloped. The cultural and linguistic differences between the two regions also played a role. East Pakistan was predominantly Bengali-speaking, while Urdu and Punjabi were the main languages of West Pakistan. The lack of recognition for Bengali culture and language only deepened the rift. The tensions between the two wings of Pakistan reached a boiling point in 1970 when Pakistan held its first general elections. The election results were a shock to the political establishment in West Pakistan. In East Pakistan, the Awami League, led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, won a landslide victory, securing 160 out of 160 seats allocated to East Pakistan in the national parliament. This gave the Awami League a clear majority in the 300-seat National Assembly, which was supposed to form the new government of Pakistan. However, despite the clear mandate from the people of East Pakistan, the ruling authorities in West Pakistan, led by General Yahya Khan, and the Pakistan People's Party (PPP), led by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, refused to transfer power to the Awami League. This led to a political crisis with increasing demands for greater autonomy in East Pakistan. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who had long been advocating for the rights of the Bengali people, called for a movement for self-determination. The refusal of the West Pakistani government to acknowledge the results of the 1970 election was seen as the final straw, and tensions between the two regions escalated dramatically. On March 25, 1971, the situation reached a breaking point when the Pakistan Army launched a brutal crackdown in East Pakistan known as Operation Searchlight. The Pakistani military aimed to suppress the growing movement for autonomy and independence in East Pakistan, and the operation was a full-scale military assault on Dhaka and other major cities. The crackdown was horrifying. Thousands of people, mostly civilians, were killed, and widespread atrocities, including mass rapes and indiscriminate killings, were committed by the Pakistan Army. The Bengali population, including students, intellectuals, and political leaders, were targeted for their support of the Awami League and the movement for independence. The brutal suppression of the Bengali population marked the beginning of the war for Bangladesh's independence. As the Pakistan Army advanced, many people from East Pakistan fled to neighboring India to escape the violence. In the chaos of the crackdown, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman declared the independence of Bangladesh on March 26, 1971. This marked the official beginning of the Bangladesh Liberation War. The fight for independence was on. After the declaration of independence, a full-scale guerrilla war ensued. The Bengali population, led by the Mukti Bahini, the Liberation Army, launched an armed resistance against the Pakistan Army. The Mukti Bahini consisted of military defectors, students, and ordinary civilians who were willing to risk everything to fight for their homeland's freedom. Despite being outnumbered and less equipped, the Bengali forces mounted a fierce resistance. They had the support of the population, which was determined to rid the country of Pakistani rule. The war was marked by brutal fighting, and the civilian population bore the brunt of the violence. The Pakistan Army continued its campaign of terror, using tactics such as mass killings, rapes, and the destruction of villages to crush the resistance. The war also saw widespread displacement. Over 10 million refugees fled to neighboring India, which put immense pressure on the Indian government. In December 1971, India formally entered the war in support of the Bengali independence movement. Indian troops, alongside Mukti Bahini fighters, launched a coordinated offensive against the Pakistan Army. The intervention by India tipped the balance of power in favor of the Bangladesh Liberation Forces. On December 16, 1971, after just 2 weeks of intense fighting, the Pakistan Army surrendered in Dhaka, marking the end of the war and the creation of the independent nation of Bangladesh. The Bangladesh Liberation War was a devastating conflict that took a horrific toll on the population. It's estimated that between 300,000 and 3 million people were killed during the war, with the majority of casualties being civilians. The Pakistan Army's systematic campaign of terror, especially the widespread use of sexual violence, left deep scars on the nation. Women, particularly, were victims of mass rape, and many were forced into sexual slavery by the military. The war also left millions of people displaced, and the country faced a massive humanitarian crisis in the aftermath of the conflict. Bangladesh, a country that had been economically poor and politically unstable even before the war, was left in ruins. Rebuilding the nation would take decades. India's involvement in the war was crucial to the outcome. The Indian military, under the command of General Sam Manekshaw, played a decisive role in the final stages of the conflict. The Indian Air Force and Army provided critical support to the Bengali resistance, and Indian forces were able to capture significant areas of East Pakistan, weakening the Pakistani military's grip on the region. India's intervention was not without controversy, and it complicated India-Pakistan relations for years to come. After the war, Bangladesh's independence was formally recognized, and Pakistan was left to reckon with the consequences of the war, including the loss of half of its territory and millions of lives. The creation of Bangladesh as an independent state marked a new chapter in the region's history, but the legacy of the war continues to shape Bangladesh today. The nation emerged from the war with deep scars. The memory of the atrocities committed during the war, especially by the Pakistan Army, is still a painful subject for many Bangladeshis. Since independence, Bangladesh has made significant strides in terms of economic development and political stability, although it has faced challenges, including political instability and natural disasters. The trauma of the war still lingers in the collective memory of the country, and many survivors, especially women, have struggled for recognition of the violence they endured during the conflict. In 1973, Bangladesh created a war crimes tribunal to hold those responsible for atrocities during the war accountable, but this process has been controversial and remains a sensitive issue. To conclude, the Bangladesh Liberation War of 1971 was a transformative and tragic moment in the history of South Asia. It was a war fought not only for independence, but for the dignity and survival of a people who had been oppressed for decades. The war's impact reverberated far beyond the borders of Bangladesh, changing the geopolitical landscape of the region. While Bangladesh emerged as an independent nation, the scars of the war are still visible in the nation's history and collective memory. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth historical content. And as always, feel free to leave any thoughts or questions in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Bangladesh Liberation War. See you in the next video.